Hello, Power Family, and today's weekly update is for Friday, April 9th of 2021. And generally, these updates are sent out late in the morning, and today is a little bit different. It's been a long day. It's actually later in the afternoon, and I had purposely waited to record this because I was made aware yesterday of the governor's impending press conference, which I didn't really have any idea what was going to be expressed and presented in that press conference. But I knew it may well impact us here in school. And today I need to just spend some time talking a little bit how we're going to respond to the governor's request to have high schools take a pause 2 weeks after spring break, along with athletics, and share about how we're going to respond to that and how I think we need to respond. Given what we're dealing with right now here in the community schools with COVID, especially at the high school level, and I'll get into that in just a second. But it's good to be back. It's good to have our students back. It's definitely been a little bit of a struggle this week. Last week, when we were on spring break, we had 3 COVID cases reported, and this week we were up to 18. And I think it's going to be probably a little bit higher by the end of the day today. 18 cases, and that's almost something sometimes we would experience in a month's time. But 18, and of that 18, 13 are at the high school. I think that may be up to 15 once again by the end of today. And then we had 5 at Navigator, and 2 of those were staff members. And majority of these happened and occurred over spring break, and definitely were not in school transmissions because we know where people were at and they weren't in school. But we're definitely feeling the impact of that, and I think we're going to continue feeling the impact of that. Definitely having a strain, especially at the high school. We're starting to having to quarantine students, contact trace. There's a period of time we didn't have to do that just because of the timing when people were out of town. But now, as we've been back in school, we're starting to see that impact to our students, and that's concerning for us because I think those numbers could grow fairly quickly. So I don't think we're through the post spring break kind of surge that we expected to have. We're hopeful that we can work through it, and I think we still can, but we're definitely seeing some of the impact here. But also in line is that we know that we've been working through this entire pandemic as a local community, as a Livingston County community, and as a state community. And if you're already aware, and I'm sure you are, that the governor is urging us to do some things voluntarily to help address some of this. And as a school, we were asked specifically to take a 2 week pause from the high school level post spring break. And the reason why I think she said post spring break, because many schools and most schools are on spring break this week because they generally take spring break after Easter. We take ours prior to that. So we've already been back, but they're asking just a 2 week to kind of help slow, especially since a lot of it involves high school age students, not so much in school transmission, but just the high school students who are out and about traveling, spring break, sports, athletics, to try to help get a little bit of a handle on this. And as we spent all day looking at our data, looking at our situation, looking at our options, especially with high school, scheduled to take SAT testing next week, PSAT testing next week. It's a struggle because we believe in our face-to-face instruction. We believe in what we've been doing. And I know whatever decision I make, half of the people are going to support it and half the people are going to be upset with me. And I get that. And it's nothing personal, but my responsibility is to try to do the best job we can. And sometimes what can we do in terms of a win-win situation moving forward? I definitely want to help address the COVID situation, want to preserve quality instruction, face-to-face, and athletic piece. And so what I'm coming to you with today is that next week we are going to pause high school face-to-face instruction, but we're only going to do it for a week. I do not want to do it for 2 weeks. I don't think it's necessary. That would give us the 2 weeks after spring break, and with the hope and intent that we would work through some of the COVID challenges that we are facing with that. And I would be shocked if our numbers don't go down. And that's what I'm assuming that would happen. That's what I'm expecting would happen. And I think that would help us just kind of settle things down here a little bit and get us to where we need to be. And so what we're really looking at next week is 4 days. We have 4 days face-to-face instruction. I think we can sacrifice that for the sake of trying to get through this, hopefully last surge before the end of the school year. When we had to have a pause earlier this school year in November, December in the high school, I think it went extraordinarily well. Our teachers did a great job. Our kids adjusted. And this is really looking at this is once again 4 days, and this is not a state mandate. It's up to us and it's up to me, and that's what I'm looking at doing. And with that being said, the testing, we have the option to move that back, and we have designated dates that the state and the state board, college board has given us. So we did contemplate just bringing kids in to test them. And we know we're gonna have a lot of kids gone because they're quarantined. Some folks may just not feel comfortable, may choose to self-quarantine themselves. And that just creates even a bigger mess and bigger complication when you're looking at doing a test such as the SAT and the PSAT. So we have the option to just move it a few weeks into later April or even early May to get that done. And we're going to do that. We can just replicate the schedule that we've done. It'll take a little more work on our end, but I think it's work well spent, and something that it's fairly easy for us to adjust to. So that's what we're going to do. So there's no worries. Everybody's still going to take the SAT, especially our juniors. I definitely need to know how they need to take it. So in preparation for college applications and such. So then coming back after this pause, we'll resume with the full plan of face-to-face instruction and the model that we have. Along those lines, we're asked to put a pause to youth sports. And I know this is a tough one because we want our kids involved. We want our kids to be engaged. But I'll be honest with you, a lot of the instances we've had at the tail end of winter sports, and we're starting with spring sports, is tied to some of our athletics. And we're testing, and we did a great job testing yesterday at middle school. We had 48 students test. They were all negative. And at the high school, we had 272 tests today, and 2 were positive. And those are very small numbers, but at the same time, we are seeing impact, especially with quarantine. And so we feel like we're going to pause our face-to-face instruction and try to really do our part as a school district to help get through this. We're going to do the same with athletics. And I know, once again, that's going to draw some emotions for people and not be happy. It's really hard for me. I've been struggling with this all day, but I really feel like, okay, we can do this for next week, and we can get through this and resume. And I feel better about it because, once again, these are decisions that we're making at the local level, not from the state level. I really feel that it's in our best interest to do this. Middle school sports, it's just track and field. We've had really no instances, for a few weeks at Pathfinder, knock on wood. We had 0 positive tests in our testing yesterday that occurred during the school day. So we're going to resume with middle school sports. It hasn't really been an issue anywhere throughout the state. So athletics for middle school will continue. It's high school face-to-face instruction and high school athletics. We're going to put a pause starting on Monday of next week. So that would be days 9th, 10th, 11th, and the 12th. And so starting there. And the administrators will communicate the schedules. So it'll look very similar to what we've done in late November, early December. Our students will have a schedule they have to follow to continue on their learning and their instruction for that day. Once again, let's keep in perspective. I'm looking at 4 days. And Friday is already asynchronous. And so when I look at it from that, I'm like, we can do this. Like, we can do our part. We're being asked to do our part, as a school system. And I feel comfortable doing that and then moving forward, because we've done a great job. And so once again, I appreciate the support. I know some folks are going to reach out to me and they're going to have their views on this. And this is not a political decision on my part. Never has been. I'm in charge of 2,400 students. The responsibility weighs heavy on my shoulders, of our staff and of our students. And also just for our entire state. We love living here and being part of this community. And we're going to move forward and do the very best job we can. So appreciate that. I think we're going to get on the other end of this and then be ready to go for the rest of the year. But just a little more COVID news. Last Saturday, it's one of the reasons why, I wanted to have a clinic here and got that going. We had over 200 participants. I don't want to thank anybody in this community who participated in that clinic. That clinic, helped identify more COVID cases and maybe prevented further spread or further quarantines down the road. So thank you for that. I know many of you waited well over an hour in your car to get tested. So I do appreciate that. And once again, already touched on our athletic testing that we did at the middle school yesterday and our high school today. Do want to point out that quarantines, this is per the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, has been ranched up back to 14 days. It was lowered to 10 days, but now given the variants and what we're seeing throughout the state, they have given us a standard is that now when you are quarantined, it is back to 14 days, which makes it a little more difficult when our students or our staff need to be quarantined. So regarding testing, I talked about the SAT and the PSAT. We'll move that and we'll get more information on exactly when that's going to be. That'll be from the building principals. But we are scheduled to also administer the M-STEP. You've been in school long enough, you know that the M-STEP grades 3 through 8 have been administered for years. And the state of Michigan did try to get a waiver, so we didn't have to do that this year. Unfortunately, that waiver was just recently denied. So we do have to administer the M-STEP, even though the schools are going to be held accountable for the scores. The data, I think, will be valuable to kind of see where we're at and where gaps are and what we did really well and what we need to focus on given this year's situation. But from a school standpoint, there's definitely some levels of accountability, and some of those will be kind of waived for this current year. I do want to let our PVA students know that the M-STEP is open for them to take it, but the M-STEP cannot be given at home. It's just not set up to be done remotely. So if PVA students do want to take, and their parents want them to take the M-STEP test, they would have to come into school on the scheduled times that the administrators would provide to take that test. And I know some people may not be comfortable with that, and that's okay. You're not going to get any trouble. You're not going to be mandated, not required to do that. That option's there. So if folks who have PVA students don't feel comfortable bringing their kids to school, there's no worries. There's no worries on our end. There needs to be no worries on your end as well. But we do want to let you know that option will be available. Information will be coming from the appropriate administrators regarding those specific PVA students. On those lines, we did welcome PVA students back to face-to-face this past week. We had 38 students district-wide return to face-to-face learning this past week. So we're excited about that. In COVID, outside of high school numbers have actually been really pretty good. We've seen minimal to no impact at Farley at Country. We still have had some residual impacts at Navigator School, but that sixth grade kind of bubble that we had definitely has dissipated. And what we're seeing too is just students are being impacted by family, parents who've been sick. What we're seeing now, especially with the variant, when somebody in a family gets it, it's just like we've had with colds or flus. It seems to go through the whole family, and so that's the trend we're seeing. So we feel really good. Once again, high school has been a little more of a challenge just because of mobility of our students, how many students are involved in activities, workplaces, and just local and traveling here recently. So I think that's why you're seeing the recommendation that high schools just take a pause. But we're not pausing for 2 weeks. We're going to pause for one week, 4 days of instruction. That's what we're looking at. We're going to postpone the SAT and the PSAT test, and we'll get those taken care of. We have to. So no worries there. All our students will have the opportunity to do that. But on that note, I want to thank you, as always, for your support, understanding. I've already had emails to me today saying, we know this is really difficult. I've had emails saying, hey, we want to do face-to-face instruction. Please do that. Others who are emailing me saying, please, I think we need to take a pause. So I appreciate all that. In the end of the day, I think, we can do this next week. Our kids are going to be okay. I think our teachers can do a great job as they've done before, and then we'll be ready to go. So that's my full intent. I appreciate it. Any other changes, if things don't pan out, I will communicate that. We're going to continue making decisions, being transparent in our thinking, and obviously in our communication. So have a great rest of the evening or weekend, whenever you choose to view this. So it was nice speaking with you again, and we'll look forward to working with all our students, whether they're at home next week or they're here with us. So take care, everybody. Stay safe and healthy, and let's go Pirates.